Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. It is now 10:53, 23 minutes later than we were supposed to start. You know, we had a little bit of a clipping issue going into YouTube, and not entirely sure what has changed, but we're making notes on every single setting. So it might mean that for usual listening purposes, you're going to have to crank it a little louder, because at the moment it's going really, really quiet. And as you know, somebody's pointing out, YouTube and SoundCloud and everybody has been redoing all of their levels, and they're constantly changing things, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. You know, so God bless it. At the moment, we're sending a significantly quieter signal than we normally would, so I'm not sure if YouTube is making up the gain now, but you may have to turn up your speakers from a normal listening position, or maybe you won't. Maybe now that, you know, the inputs are quite different, it's not going to be a problem. All right, so God bless it. We're now starting back again with Tony, with his version of All Comes Back Around.
One reason, one life, one chance to make it right. 'Cause it all comes back around. Oh, and I've pleaded, I've tried, I've cried a million times, but it all comes back around. There's a space between, like holding the universe, trying to find out what it means. Is love all we need, or is it mixed with a little bit of fate and destiny? One reason, one life, one chance to make it right. 'Cause it all comes back around. Oh, and I've pleaded, I've tried, I've cried a million times, but it all comes back around. I wanna do something more. I wanna fix my broken doors. I wanna look you in the face and tell you I was wrong. I wanna do something more. Can you fix my broken doors? Show me what I need. Show me what I need to know. Show me what I need to know. One reason, one life, one chance to make it right. 'Cause it all comes back around. Oh, and I've pleaded, I've tried, I've cried a million times, but it all comes back around. I wanna do something more. I wanna fix my broken doors. I wanna look you in the face and tell you I was wrong. I wanna do something more. Can you fix my broken doors? Show me what I need. Show me what I need to know. Show me what I need to know.
It's really wonderful, Tony. Are you still there, Tony? It's great. The strings are absolutely gorgeous. It's interesting because there's been a couple of other broken down mixes, and the thing with some of the other broken down mixes, I've made the comment that the vocal goes for it, but the mixing didn't. On your one, you got the right balance with the strings and the timpani coming in here, that it actually matches the intensity. That's one of the difficult things. This morning, I was talking to an Academy member in Germany on a Skype call, and one of the things we talked about was just kind of the excitement of a mix. They wanted to specifically talk about mixing, which is, I totally understand, but there's a bigger thing with mixing. Mixing is not all about EQ, compression and effects. It's just not. Those are just the tools to get something across. And I know it gets esoteric when people go, yeah, man, it's just about the feeling. That is also BS as well. Yes, of course it's about a feeling, but it's a bigger question. It's like, how can we stand back from our mix and listen to it and make sure that the excitement is there, the journey is there, if you're trying to take us on a journey like you are here, and that everything feels honest. It's got to feel honest. And especially in a song like this, where, you know, I wrote this song with Liana, and it's like, it's a bit of frustration, and the vocals, the singer is fantastic. She did a wonderful, wonderful job on this. And so we've got to like match it with the intensity of the music. And even though this is stripped down to a piano, timpani and strings, it works, it matches. I want to play this section here again.
Can you fix my broken doors? Show me what I need. Show me what I need to know. Show me what I need to know. One reason, one life, one chance to make it right. 'Cause it all comes back around. Oh, and I pleaded, I've tried, I've cried a million times, but it all comes back around. I wanna do something more. I wanna fix my broken nose. I wanna look you in the face and tell you I was wrong. I wanna do something more. Can you fix my broken nose? Show me what I need. Show me what I need to know. Show me what I need to know.
Really good. It's pretty remarkable how well it works, considering there's no bass line. The voicings on the keyboards are quite narrow. It would be tempting to suggest on that last section that a sub comes in really super gently. Maybe even just a sub synth bass could just be boom, boom. But like, it would have to be so quiet and just felt, less heard and more felt. That would be the only possible thing that I would suggest. And it's subtle. It's subtle, and it doesn't have to be there, but it might be something that that you could bring in. All right, wonderful work, Tony. Thanks everybody for the patience. I don't know if this is a temporary thing with YouTube or it's a permanent thing, but we're taking notes of these settings, these super quiet settings, and next week when we'll do it, we can have a little discussion about whether it's improved or. But if they are using some kind of normalization, see, they don't normally, when I print something quiet, it's quiet. When it's loud, it's loud. They don't usually mess with it. So maybe they're trying something, or maybe there's just something with a specific stream. Anyway, so Scotty P is up next. Great work, Tony. Scotty P is up next with Only Women Bleed.
Click on Chrome and you'll see their...
Oh, yes. And Tony says comment was something a little different. Yes, it was. Okay. Next up is Scotty P. Mixing live shows can be tricky. Heck yes. I spent some years in a recording truck. Nice. And many times a vocal mic was part of the snare sound. I hear you, my friend. These tracks are very clean. Oh, okay. The leaking wasn't bad at all, making it much less of a battle. It was actually a very big stage. There's some live footage somewhere you can find online. And it was a pretty huge stage, so there wasn't too much of an issue. I know on the smaller clubs I've recorded, it can be terrible. And yes, you're right. The singer Wednesday really, she's got a lot of power. And he said it brought me back to Alice Cooper when he made this a big hit. Wonderful. Now I'm going to side on caution and bring this down another dB because we've got some square waving here. So let's make sure we don't hit too hard. Here we go.
Man's got his woman to take his seat. He's got the power, she's got the need. She spends her life through pleasing up her man. She feeds him dinner or anything she can. She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed. 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 Man makes your hair gray. He's your life's mistake. When all you're really looking for isn't even brave. He lies right at you. You know you hate this game. He slaps you once in a while and you live and love with him. She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed. 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 Only women bleed.
thank you. It doesn't feel the same without Dickie, but thank you so much.
It's really fantastic. I want to listen to one little piece again. This is really wonderful. So I went to the open back headphones. A couple of things talk-wise. Honestly, on the open backs, it's even better still. What happens a lot when you're using, and we talked about this today, when you're using the closed back headphones, is I miss some of the ambience. I feel like the music's being forced into my head in a way, because there's no way for the drivers, the speakers to breathe. And so I was questioning just a little bit, because Scott's mix is absolutely superb. I was questioning just a little bit, like, is there enough ambience on it? Because this is what always happens when I've personally mixed live stuff, is I end up making it sound a little bit too studio. So I was a little wary of that. I was like, I don't want this to get to sound overly studio. So going with the open backs really helped me out, because as soon as I put these on, I was like, oh, okay, now I can hear the ambience there. It's the headphones that are making me feel like there needs to be more ambience, when the reality is there's definitely enough. Scott, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely amazing. I mean, that could be the mix. The snare's got some slap on it. It's really, really a very, very nice mix. Very superb. Yeah. Congratulations. Now, it's not surprising when we read in the comments that you had done this kind of work. You obviously know this kind of work really, really well. Please share with everybody the process. I think everybody would love to know. I'd love to know, what your process was in mixing this, because I think it will help a lot of people to know. Wonderful work. Really superb. Another thing, while I remember, so I called Blue after we had that discussion about Blue. And what it is like their new owners that took them over are reducing the range. They're losing about half of the models. So there's a few sites that are only selling the discontinued ones. So they're creating this illusion that Blue are being discontinued. But there's sites that only have, when you type in Blue, says discontinued, discontinued, discontinued. So that's why there's this talk about Blue stopping making headphones. They're not stopping making headphones, apparently. That's just because they're continuing all part of the range and focusing on half of them. So that was the confusion. Anyway, really good. Really, really good. Yeah, I don't know if it's super live. I would say it's on the verge, even with the open backs. It's not quite as live as some stuff is done. I think it's perfect, but it could probably stand 5 or 10% more ambience on it. There's points where it's kind of a catch-22. That's the one thing with live mixing, is how do you keep that live feel, But it's a phenomenal mix. And again, this is only a matter of taste. I went through this with Black Veil Brides when we mixed them is that they came back and said, it sounds amazing. Can you make it more live, you know? Oh yeah, do open backs work for the mixing or just listening? No, it's really good for the mixing. And to be honest, I'm sort of enjoying this double whammy, this ability to be able to listen on these headphones I've been using for about a year or so now, and then go to the open backs and just check a couple of things with them. So that's a nice thing. And this gives me more of an experience of using speakers because it does feel like a lot more natural to me. Okay, Roman is up next. Hello, Roman. I see you here earlier. And it's love it or leave it. Let's have a quick read. Roman says, hey dear Platt members, let me introduce my mix of Elena Blair, Love It or Leave It, 5th season. Here's my description. Mixed in Sennheiser, well, with headphones, HD 650 with Sonarworks calibration. Most of the mixing tricks will borrow from Warren's breakdown video. I'm happy to have his videos. Thank you, Roman, I appreciate it. All the bus tracks were equipped with console SSL 4000E by Brainworks. I'm testing my new toy. Wonderful. Vocal was Opto Compressor, Acme Opticon XLA3A by Brainworks. 7 to 8 gain reduction course, but still doesn't sound unnatural or overcompressed to me. You know, that's the truth. You can slam stuff with compression. As long as it sounds good, it sounds good. Master compressor, VBC rack. Reverb is a T-Verb. Eventide, master limiter, T-Rack stealth limiter. Reference, I try to be somewhere between Warren's mix and AC/DC Money Made. I can't think of that song off the top of my head, but God bless it. All right. We'll check it out.
I've been waiting around for too damn long, watching you chase your tail. It's the same old story, getting boring, and this love is getting stale. You say what you want, say what you need, well, you keep looking for more. It's getting about that time where I say goodbye, kick your ass right out the door. 'Cause your lips are talking, but your feet don't do no walking. Well, I just don't think you understand. I'm sick of your maybes, baby. You think I'm gonna keep waiting. Why can't you just be a man? Whoa, you can love it or leave it. You better believe it. Had enough of your games and I don't need this. You're not the only man left in this town. Whoa, you can love it or leave it. Can't in between it. Yeah, I said it. Hell yeah, I mean it. You're crazy if you think I'll stick around. Oh, love it or leave it. The last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby. I ain't losing sleep. She's a pretty little thing that loves her mama, but you met her at the candy store. And I saw you checking out her legs as she walked through the door. And I watched and I let you go as I played you like a toy. 'Cause I know you're nothing but a good for nothing lazy little mama's boy. 'Cause your lips are talking, but your feet don't do no walking. Well, I just don't think you understand. I'm sick of your maybes, baby. You think I'm gonna keep
Listen a little bit more.
You think I'll stick around? Oh, love it or leave it, the last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby, I ain't losing sleep. Love it or leave it, the last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby, I ain't losing sleep. So you can love it or leave it, you better believe it. Had enough of your games and I don't need it. And I'm the only man left in this town. Oh, you can love it or leave it, can't in between it. Yeah, I said it, hell yeah, I mean it. Crazy if you're
Cool, I really love it. For me, it's just, honestly, mix-wise, EQ, compression, all of that stuff is pretty darn perfect. I think it's an automation thing. All the things, the subtle things I'm hearing are just like here.
love it or leave it, the last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby, I ain't losing sleep. Love it or leave it, the last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby, I ain't losing.
Just like a little bit of that, down, you know what I mean? It's just like a little tiny bit more like popping out, you know, area there.
The last you'll see of me. Love it or leave it, baby.
Like a little bit more of those elements. Like I think that's me on electric, just like playing some of those. A little bit more of that.
Little thing that loves a mama, but you met her at the candy store. And I saw you checking out her legs as she walked through the door. And I watched and I let you go. You think I'm gonna keep waiting? Why can't you just be a man? Whoa, you can love it or leave it, you better
Maybe that loud and proud, down, 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 down. You know, that little
just be a man.
down, 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 down.
Just be a man. Whoa, you can love it or leave it, you better believe it. Had enough of your games and I don't need it. You're not a man. Whoa, you can love it or leave it, a man. Whoa, you can love it or leave it.
It's just that. It's like little automation moves, maybe just for extra excitement. This mix is really good. This is what we call the headphone mix. What I'm doing here is I'm listening down going, oh, you know, what can I do to just add some additional interest, like pulling out riffs like that. That's where I would be on this. It's like, it's a really, really good mix, but how do we get it to that sort of next level of like excitement and pulling stuff out? It's really good. The dynamics are phenomenal. You know, the chorus have impact, the verses are great, nothing squared off. I like the compression, I like the snap and everything. It's really good.
I'm sick of your maybes, baby. You think I'm gonna keep waiting? Why can't you just be a man? Whoa, you can love it or leave it, you better believe it. Had enough of your games and
Like the whoa could push up.
man.
Whoa, love it. You know, that just tiny little things like that. Maybe more verb. Whoa! You know, use that as a moment. Like crank the reverb on the vocal there. Whoa! Love it, I live it. It's just finding those kind of moments. And it's fantastic that what I'm talking about here is very subtle. These are subtle, subtle little things that can really, really make it even more amazing. This is really wonderful. Really, really impressed. Wow, these mixes so far this week have been absolutely fantastic. I'm loving that the mixes are great, but I'm also loving that people are looking at this from a bigger perspective, not just all about EQ and compression. You're looking at it from a perspective of like, how do you get a mix to be exciting and interesting? And because those are the next level things that get you the gigs. Because most band members, well, not most, but a majority of, but a lot, how about that? I don't know. A lot of them have DAWs and this, that and the other, but let's be honest, most of them aren't technically minded, nor should they be. They're creative, they're musicians, they're artists. So they don't listen to mixes like we do. Some of them do, don't get me wrong, but a lot of punters, regular people, you know, they don't listen to music like we do. So you have to put yourself in their place. Like, what is it they're after. They're after excitement. They want to be hit over the head. And the reason why we talk about low end pumping is they want to feel it like that. You know, so the stuff that we've heard so far has all been really, really well chosen, really like compressed and EQ'd, and the moves are fantastic. And now we're just talking about subtle things. Like I was saying with Scott, maybe a tiny bit more ambience around it, around a halo more of ambience around it. Not like tons, but just a little bit more. That would take it over the edge for me. For Tony, like a little bit of a light sub on that last chorus maybe, just to be like, oh, this low end came in. But almost unnoticeable, just a feeling of the low sub. And then with Roman, it's subtle. His mix is phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. But just like little moments of ear candy. Whoa! Like reverb. You know what I mean? You know, that guitar part, maybe bring everything underneath it down a little bit. Just like little moments of excitement. But it's fantastic that we can talk about that, because it means that everybody is getting into that place. People are getting into the place now where they're making mixes that will, you know, get them to gigs, as opposed to like, oh, that's nice, sounds better than my rough, but it's the same. Because most of the time it's like a lot of people mix, and I get mixes back which just sound like my rough, but maybe 5% better. I don't want that. I want my rough a lot better. But I want it to be like, what? Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. What was that? What an interesting delay effect. Wow, they muted this part. Now it punches in heavier. Wow. You know, that's why we use external mixers, to take it further than we can. Great work. All right, next up, I'm going to start off with the open backs this time and then go to the closed backs. So next up is Norman Kern. Norman says, hi everyone, I've been gone for a while, had to build a new computer because my old one was so bad for mixing. I kept having to bounce tracks because of DSP. Made it so hard to mix and took a lot of the fun out of mixing. So different with the new computer I built. So starting with to remix everything again. Would love to hear what everyone thinks. Okay, excited to hear it.
Blame it on the whiskey, blame it on the bad weed, blame it on the only thing you've ever seen. Run and tell your mother, blame it on your brother, blame it on the only thing you've ever heard. Tall tale, why you was raising up here, falling like the hardest stone that ever fell. Blame it on a bad dream, no, it didn't mean a damn thing, anything to keep you safe. you do is try to deny. All you do is lie, even when you know it just ain't right. All you do is lie. All you do is try to deny. All you do is lie, even when you know it just ain't right. All you do is lie. Blame it on the whiskey. All you do is lie. All you do is lie.
Yeah, I really, really like it. It's a wonderful, wonderful mix. I think that a few people are sort of catching on with the low end. For me, there's a bit of a crossover in the low lows on the bass, and the bass in general is just a little bit beefy. But it's covering the kick a little bit. So I think what I would firstly do is probably just bring the bass down slightly. However, you're probably going to want to then turn up a bit of like 7 or 851 and 1.5, some of that sort of pure mid-range. Like for instance, if we go and grab like the, where is it? I'll just go to sound field. If you want to grab like the Paz frequency, you're probably looking at like a lot of crossover at like 80 to 100.
All you do is lie. All you do is try to deny. All you
Yeah, you've got sort of 80 to about 150. The 250 area is actually not too bad, but it's like this 80 to about 150 area here, which has got a lot going on. You can hear it, obviously. And it's just covering some of the kick. So it's kind of a catch-22. You could bring that down in the bass, but I also think that if you do that, you might stop hearing the bass because it's beautiful and round. I love the bass. I don't know if I would necessarily bring it down so much as like turn the bass down ever so slightly and then put a tiny bit more mid-range on the bass. This, don't get me wrong, Norman, this mix is so close. Again, really, really workable. Fantastic work.
Now you're getting older. You're still looking over your shoulder. Everybody's moving on. You're growing colder. So blame it on the whiskey. Or blame it on your company. No, it really doesn't matter all that much to me. Now you're getting older. You're still looking over your shoulder. Everybody's moving on. You're growing colder. So blame it on the whiskey. Or blame it on your company. No,
Yeah, there's a fight going on in that area, you know, of like the 80 to 100. I think between 80 and 150 on the bass and the kick. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the kick, if you gave me a little bit more 60 underneath, just a tiny bit, brought the bass down ever so slightly, then brought up some of the mid-range on the bass, I think you'd solve that problem. You know, I just really, I knew that's what was going on, but I brought up the Paz purely and simply for that. I highly recommend use the Paz over the Fab filter. The Fab filter is causing a lot of issues with people mixing because they see peaks, because it's very, the way that the Paz works is more like a VU. you know, so it gives you the impression of where something is consistently over. The problem with the fab filter is it gives you these like crazy peaks, and I've been getting a lot of people sending me mixes, and when I've opened them up, especially students I've been teaching, they've gone in and they've drawn all these EQ based on them seeing peaks, and they're taking out a lot of the inherent musicality out of it. So what I loved about this PAS frequency, and a reason why a lot of professionals use it, is because it gives you a balanced idea of what the average is happening, as opposed to like just trying to combat like, oh my God, there was a peak, I better pull it out, you know, and then of course 10 seconds later, it's not a peak, but you've sucked that out of the vocal, and now the vocal sounds super, super flat. So if you're doing global things and listening, I recommend with the PAS frequency. If you can't hear what a problem is, then I think the fab filter, you know, if you identify something and you don't know what it is, then I think the fab filter is kind of cool, because you might see a peak at one thing and you can't find that peak, then it's really, really good. But ultimately, you'll notice in all of the videos you've ever seen me do, I rarely ever open up something like this. It's much better to find something that bothers you sonically than it is to use any of these tools. These tools will be, this is an illustration like, oh my God, I hear a problem in the low end. I think it's X, Y, and Z. Then you open it up. I think if you use the graphic in a lot of these plugins, you get these mixes which sound very, very soft. And that is becoming, it's a big discussion point with many people at the moment about how people are mixing by eyes. Not just, you know, editing by eyes, but mixing by eyes, because they see like, oh no, there's a peak, I've got to get rid of it. And then they end up sucking the life out of an instrument that maybe needs like a mid-range kind of rah, 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 you know, that kind of way. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, I highly recommend going with the PAS frequency and using it like as a VU, like giving you the overall thing rather than, you know, trying to find just the peaks. And again, don't use them unless you hear a problem. Otherwise, sort of avoid it, because you might start mixing by eyes. And like I said, it's a big discussion point at the moment. Okay, Norman, that's fantastic. Let's see if we can clean up that low, low end. So just like kind of get in there and get to the super, super lows and just give me a little bit more on the kick, and then bring down a little bit more in like the 80 to like 150 on the bass. But I like the roundness down there. I think if you actually bring the bass down in volume, it will sit better with the kick, but then bring up some of the mid-range a little bit and give me a little bit more of the articulation. Great. Wonderful work. Wonderful, wonderful work. And then I think, as Anita said, sometimes the guitars could come up a little bit. I think like sometimes there's like little moments, again, you could automate in volume. Wonderful. Keith Fells is up. And I know, I see Keith is here. Great work, young Norman. I mean, on the whole, we're talking subtle things. It's really just that bass area. You know, it's really, really subtle moving. You know, it's really, really good. All right, next up, Keith says, I just wanted to replace the drum track for Cold Days before I started mixing it. Please do. My drummer friend had been so busy, I called the label to see what the budget was to hire one. They said, who is this and how did you get this number? So clearly I was on my own. Well, I'm not what you call a good drummer, so I opened Superior Drummer 3 and got busy creating a track. I started going in all kind of funky directions and soon realized nothing but the vocal was going to work at all. So I moved to piano. I'm not what I call a good piano player. You and me both. I'm definitely not an expert in anything, let alone piano. So I went back to my software and used easy keys, pieced everything together with a Soul MIDI pack, tune tracks to the rescue. I needed a bass part. Well, I'm not what you call a good bass player, so I have good tricks and a lot of practicing. I've never written a bass line, and the idea, bass line in Pro Tools, ran from my vocal to wage tune to flatten it out and export it to a MIDI track. Dump the MIDI track in an instrument and use the MIDI blobs and graphic code as my chart. Somehow it works for me. We all do these kind of things to make it work. Try to commit to a sound or using this. Learn a lot for, yeah, Cameron was just texting with me earlier, actually. We're going to do some more stuff with him, which is great. Once I tracked, I only needed to hit it with the stock compressor to stretch the note out. Thank you, Phil Allen. Yes, I hit a little EQ to get my sound. Cameron, obviously I need more production to make it come to life, so I grabbed my Georgia semi-hollow Electromatic Gretsch. Put it through a Vox. Very nice. So you're not a good guitar player, nor you're a good bass player, a good drummer. I'm sure you are good. Maybe you're not amazing. There's only a couple of people that are, so. Easy keys, pre-chorus, chorus part, contact B3. Finally started mixing. Using Furlan's advice, I mixed first with compression EQ and then added a 1073 for color and a touch more EQ. All right, I'm interested to see how this sounds. Oh, Abbey Road Chambers. Marvelous. Gonna give it a listen.
Never thought it would hurt this much. I'm living on another kind of pain. From the moment I left, I knew it'd be hard. But I lost something along the way. Every day I shed a tear. I have to mend these scars. Closing doors, forgetting dreams that I once had in my heart. Cold days are harder when you don't have somebody to hold you close, somebody to hold you close. Cold days are harder when you don't have somebody to hold you close, somebody to hold you close. Nobody can understand. They can see my darkness. Sometimes I wish I could go back. Would that even make a difference? It's only me and myself fighting to stay. Looking for somebody else, trying to live another day. Cold days are harder when you don't have somebody to hold you close, somebody to hold you close. Cold days are harder when you don't have somebody to hold you close, somebody to hold you close. Closing my eyes whenever I can. I'm dreaming to see you once again. Closing my eyes whenever I can. I'm dreaming to see you once again. Cold days are harder. Cold days are harder. Cold days are harder. You don't have somebody to hold you close. Somebody to hold you close. Never thought it would hurt this much. Never thought it would hurt this much.
I mean, I feel like I have to listen to it 85 more times. I mean, Keith, that's absolutely insane. There was just like moments I was just like, where am I? Who am I? What happened? Did the whole world just turn around? I think I agree with the general sentiment that the vocal could be louder in general. But what's interesting is the vocal reverb you've got on there definitely implies a sort of a classic stack soul. It's probably the Abbey Road reverb sort of doing it. And I think as crazy and as amazing as this is, it might be a good idea to introduce that sound and that feeling on everything. So it's a little bit more cohesive. So she's like, once higher, but everything else is a little drier. I feel like if you brought the vocal up a little bit and brought some of that Abbey Road-y, reverby effect on more stuff, that would make more sense to me. Then it would be kind of a crazy Amy Winehouse like track that you'd never heard before. You know what I mean? Because I love the horns, I love everything. Again, we're getting into like global stuff, which is really exciting to talk about the big picture of a mix, as opposed to like, oh, too much compression, EQ, blah, blah, blah. No, we're past that. Now we're into a place of like the creativity, which I love. So yeah, a little bit more vocal and then more lushness, you know, more of that verb on the other instruments, particularly the drums, I think, just because they're a little bit up front for me. Not that I think they need to wash in reverb, but just give it this sort of whole shimmer of a classic stacks kind of thing. And I think you'd be an amazing, amazing place.
Every day, I shed a tear. I have to mend these scars. Close the doors, forget and dream.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think, Keith, it's amazing. But yeah, that's what I would do. The drums are, you know, just a little dry, a little snappy, which is great, but maybe just dirty them up a little bit, maybe a little tiny bit of saturation on here and there, and then give it an overall kind of Abbey Road, get that verb back in there. Really great stuff. Bravo. I mean, the creativity's through the roof. I mean, wow. So more vocal and drums a little grittier, a little dirtier, with some of more of the Abbey Road kind of verb on them as well. And then just start looking around whether maybe everything needs a touch of that, just a little bit of a touch. Superb work. I mean, I can't really applaud you enough for the amount of work that you put into that. Really superb. And you are really good at everything, you know, obviously. I know you're saying you're only good or not good, but no, you're really good at everything. Bravo! Next up is Pedro. And Pedro says, good people, finally live traps, very fun. Started overall automation on this one, wanted to keep the dynamics, automated clip-on vocals and bass, and volume automation guitars and keys. To match the evolution of the drums, I kept mostly intact, a bit of compression on drum bus, overheads. Cool. We were talking about that last week where, you know, the drums were just too full on the whole time. So yeah, allowing that ability to the drums to build. You know, Danny's a great drummer. Compressed live stick and kick and snare, automated threshold for different sections, nicely done. And then balanced samples in each section, good work. For stage in front of house, trying to bring the ambience without getting too much in the way. I parallel compressed with Devil Lock and then add a compressed key on 2 buses before the master bus, one for vocals and the other for everything but vocals. Hope to hear your criticism and opinions. Wonderful. Let's check it out.
Man's got his woman to take his seat. He's got the power, she's got the need. She spends her life through pleasing up her man. She feeds him dinner all she can. She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed. 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 Only women
Really great. Really, really great. I love this a lot. Now, yeah, I was wondering when people, because we were about halfway through the song before the bass discussion. Yes, the bass actually from the top is a little loud. There's also on the, first of all, Pedro, this is a really, really great mix. It's super close. I do think the kick could have the tiniest amount of 40 to 60 because there's a couple of moments where you hear it on its own and it just feels like that. But yes, the main issue is the bass, but it's also some of the lows on the electric. So what's happening if you listen back here?
Man's got his woman to take his seat. He's got the power, she's got the need. She spends her life through pleasing up her man. She feeds.
See that? That's on the left-hand side, so that's a low note on the guitar.
Her man. She feeds him dinner. Oh.
So in the guitar as well, there's like a little bit of going on. So you need to just do a little bit of high passing on the electric guitars as well. Just find the fundamental, probably about 150 to 200 in the guitar, and it's okay to like boost a little bit between 150 and 200, like just maybe a little at the 200, just a little tiny bell, and then you can start cutting underneath that. Because if you find the fundamental of where the guitar feels good in its lowest end and feature that, then you can get the low lows out of the way, and then you won't get this rub here between the bass and the guitars.
Pleasing up her man. She feeds him dinner.
So you have the guitar sustaining going with the bass note, and there's a real low build-up. So it's a combination of the bass being a little too loud in general everywhere, but you mind grabbing that? But thank you. Bass being a little bit too loud everywhere, but at the same time, the guitars themselves having a little bit too much low end. So what's happening is there's a sort of a build-up in general with bass. Which is, as everyone's pointing out, masking a lot of the kick. The kick could do with a tiny bit more 60 to 40 on it. And then just around the edges, the guitars are a little bit too much low end in there. So low lows on the bass, bring the bass down. I bring it down about 1.5 dB generally just to start. Then high pass on the guitars and then see where you're at. But don't like high pass like as a slope like this. Go to about 150 or 200, move around, boost a little bit and find that sweet spot where it's warming it up and boost a little bit, give it like a little bump. That's what you'd always do on a console is you find the low lows and just bump them and then cut underneath. The secret with the SSL was always to boost and cut the same frequency. So it'd create a more sharper shelf. So you would, if you wanted to go to 150, you'd boost 150 and then you'd cut at 150 and it'll give you that nice little bump. That's very popular. A lot of people still think that way, you know, boosting and cutting in those kind of areas. But yeah, between 150 and 200, nice boost, wipe off below that, get to the bass, bring it down about 1.5 dB all over, give me a tiny bit more 40 to 60 on the kick, which can just be achieved by just boosting the 60 Hertz on the kick, maybe 1 dB. And with a nice wideish bell, you'll bring up some of that 40. At the same time, be aware that you might get a little interference between 80 and 100 on the bass, so you might have to dip those just a little bit. But these are very subtle things. They're all in the low end, Pedro. A really, really, really great mix. Really, very, very nice indeed. All right, next up is Barry. Is that a call we're supposed to have at 12?
No, it was a call in.
P just called everybody. Okay, so here's my first plat mix, says Barry. Barry! I'm not sure how much detail to go into, but I did a couple of things that might be interesting or presumptuous. I like both interesting and presumptuous in it, depending on your perspectives. To me, it's like, I just want to hear it in the work. When you're doing it in the work, that's all very well. You know, sounding off on forums and being an expert and all this kind of stuff. There's lots of people doing that, as we know, you know, always telling us we're doing it wrong and you're not hearing it right. When you do this and people like you've been doing here, show it in your work and try ideas, I applaud you. That's why I'm always positive, even when things might be, you know, not quite perfect. I still look for the positive in it because for me, it's all about the work. There's a lot of, like, you know, as they say, keyboard warriors out there, but really, when you show it in your work, it's not being presumptuous. It's definitely interesting. I don't mind. I know we talk about this all the time with the tracks. You don't have to pay the tracks that much respect. You can go in there and try some ideas, especially, you know, like some of the productions I've done. If you want to take the vocal and recut the whole song, that's why it's called Produce Like a Pro. So don't worry about being presumptuous when it comes to work. Not at all. The most obvious will be the addition of a string pad, which came as an accident rather than intentional. Wonderful. I like to learn new songs and was playing along and hit a wrong chord that sounded good to me, so I kept it. I can't for the parts the rest of the song. Second is the addition of a 16th note delay on a goat kick starting on the second verse. Excited to hear that. The idea was to create a little movement and differential from verse 1, but not too much. Plus it ties in nicely when talking drums. I guess they could say it talks back to them. On the choruses I added a cowbell. There's never enough cowbell, but it's not heard. Okay, a little ahead of the beat and drives a dark pre-fader reverb, which is blended in. Interesting. The idea is to create more of a feel in the chorus, speeding it up a bit. Very nice, Barry. I liked your thinking. Last thing I'll mention is on the bridge. I brought the talking drums in early to lead into the chorus, but the fun part for me was in the vocals, particularly the phrase, every second it feels like. After repeat listening, I thought the word was hurt. Since then, it's the slightest sound of a consonant, so I took a T from another word and pasted it in. Good work. I've done that many times myself. Be interested to know if I got it right. Plugins are used by Boz Digital Labs, Slate Digital, and Soundtoys. So here's the tune. Great. Wonderful stuff.
Back in a suitcase, hurry, a car waits outside. Throw your things in the back, pull off the highway. You say, hey, thanks for the ride. And you're running to gate 21, breathless as you shuffle on. You made it in time, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now.
Brought that up. The stereo. You know, it's the first thing I hear. I'm super phase coherent. The first thing, Barry, is that whatever you're using on the width there to create that width is causing some very serious kind of phase issues there. It's a little disconcerting with headphones on because it makes me feel dizzy because the guitars have got some kind of widening on them. I'm not quite sure what it is, or did you delay one? But yes, when I go to the mono, they basically disappear out of the mix. It's a little difficult to listen to with headphones. I don't know if everybody's that phase, you know, it just makes me feel a little dizzy. Have a listen again. Yeah, it's here as well.
Back in a suitcase, hurry, a car waits outside. Throw your things in the back, pull off the highway. You say, hey, thanks for the ride. And you're running to gate 21, breathless as you shuffle on. You made it in time, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down. Reread your messages, so much that you never said. It gets tight in your chest, all of the what ifs. It could drive somebody mad, but you put your headphones back on, losing yourself in a song, wishing you'd spend more time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are plans to make when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way, way on the ground. You can't help but feel restless. Up here there's a second to catch your breath. All of the time that you have ain't enough, and every second it feels like hell. 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down.
Yes, Barry, I mean, look, I really want to be really positive here. I think the thing to do is just take off the widening effect on the master bus. Be really, really careful with widening stuff, because first of all, obviously, it's really disconcerting because you can't. Things don't sound like they're coming out of the middle. The widening effect in general can cause a lot of sort of havoc when mastering, for instance. Like you can't use, for instance, those things on lathes. So you would never be able to make vinyl copies of stuff with widening plugins, because the stylus wouldn't know where to go, and they can't cut with that. So a lot of like EDM remixes have to be redone, and I know, especially with low end stuff. Pete Lyman was telling me he has to send back mixes all the time. Even when he monos the low end, he still can't get it to work quite well. So you're not alone. Everybody has tried the widening, and we all love it because it makes the vocal so much clearer when everything's out of the way. You know, so trust me, I've done it myself. The only time I'll ever use a widening plugin, just to let you know personally, is like on a synth pad or something that's sitting in there and it's just muddy in the middle, and I pulled out the low mids. I might slightly widen the synth pad just to get it out of the middle of like one element of the mix. So I'm not sure what the Brower motion is. I don't know that particular plugin. So I think what I would do is just like reprint the mix. Firstly, if you could do two versions, reprint it without the widening effect on, just take it off entirely. And then print one again without the Brower motion, because I don't know if that's causing issues, because when we go back in, all of the percussion disappears as well.
Losing yourself in a song, wishing you'd spend more time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller, like pain.
Yeah, so we lose all of the percussion as well. So I wonder if the Brower motion is also causing something as well. I actually don't know what Brower motion is. Anybody tell me? Oh, my cable might be. You're right. It's probably hitting the microphone. I don't know what the Brower motion is. I've never actually used that. Look, great work. And look, I don't want to be negative, Barry. We've all been there. We've all done those kind of things. But as a rule of thumb, I would avoid widening plugins at all costs. I remember Logic did something foolishly a few years ago where they did stereo bass, and all it was the left channel and the right channel phase reversed. And it caused all kinds of havoc because mastering engineers were getting this kind of bass sound that was completely out of phase, and they could not get the low end to pump in, you know, and be consistent because they were doing stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it might have been Anita might have been hearing the cable hitting the microphone. Okay, next up is Morton. So, but great work, Barry. So please, could you do 2 versions? One where you print it without any widening on, and then one without the brow motion, because I don't know what that's doing. I've never used brow motion. I didn't realize as Michael got the what is it he's doing in I don't know. I can't. When I think of panning, I don't think of Brower. I'm not sure. I wonder what's unique about something that he did. I have to ask him. Okay, Morton says, this is my first upload to the Mixing Academy. Welcome, Morton. Hope to get some feedback on it. Haven't done a lot of producing on this, just a little bit in the intro and some guitar amping, and a lot of time mixing. I love this great song, and I've tried to get a warm and relaxed sound and still keep the dynamics. I will say, Barry, it's really important to me, though. Please don't be discouraged, because all it is like a couple of plugins and a couple of settings and just rebounce it. Please don't be discouraged. This is a safe place to share this kind of stuff. You know, this is a place where you can say whatever you like, you know. No, I don't mean like that. You can try any idea that you like, and nobody is going to criticize you for it. Just wonderful, wonderful work. So no widening. Bounce it, and then one without the brow motion, just to see what the difference is. Okay, Martin Olsen.
Soon as your whiskey touched my lips, you set a fire to my song, and I'm gonna take it down to heaven. We push and pull and won't let go. It's a never-ending merry come and go round once more. And know you're so insatiable, so take me down again. Moaning, screaming, don't pretend. Wanna hear my name through gritted teeth and a heavy breath. Just lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do, and we'll dance along the satin till the morning. What you see is you and me, and never letting go. I'm gonna tear you down so hard, you're gonna be calling out for God, and he's gonna let you know he's looking down, and just keep going. So take me down again, moaning, screaming, don't pretend. Hear my name through gritted teeth and a heavy breath. Just lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do, and we'll dance along the satin till the morning. Wanna hear my name through gritted teeth and a heavy breath. Whoa, lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do, and we'll dance
It's pretty fantastic. I think, as most people are pointing out, it's a bass issue. So it's been interesting because this really is a consistent conversation. Somebody was talking about there, I'm sorry, I had to go back, about they now have a sub. I think what happens a lot, and there's so many guys and girls that I've spoken to about this, and you know, I've done Skype calls with Academy members, and I do Skype calls and lessons with tons and tons of people. And the thing that I find that's very consistent is low end. That's the one issue that everybody really deals with consistently all the time. And again, the bass here is very dominant, but the lows on the kick aren't. Now, of course, some of the bass is masking that, but it also means that there's probably something in the room, there's something about the room, I should say, that is deficient, that low end is deficient, that there's some kind of cancellation going on where that bass cannot be heard. So the question is like, let's work together on things like this, like bring the bass down like a dB and a half immediately, just turn it down a dB and a half. Give us a little bit more 60 on the kick. I still think the bass is going to be too loud, but let's sort of like get to a place where we get it mutually sounding really good, where we love it, and then you get used to understanding it. Now, of course, there'll be nothing better than treating your room or getting speakers that are more accurate down there. It's probably a combination of the number one by far, making sure that the room doesn't have really bad issues in the low end. That's the first thing. The second thing is probably getting speakers that that reproduce well down there. Maybe these are smaller speakers. Maybe they're a 6-inch driver, or maybe they're an 8, but they just don't quite have the lows. I mean, the Cali 6s have quite an extended low end with that porting. So that's the reason why we get behind them. But it doesn't mean that they're suddenly going to make your mix like absolutely perfect if your room is all over the place, you know. So I think it'd be a great discussion, Morton, to know a bit more about it. On the whole, the mix is really good. And your mid-range and your placement and a lot of your choices are really fantastic. It's just really the bass that's standing out as a big issue. So I think get stuck into that, get working on that, and then I think we'll be in a fantastic place. Really, really good. And welcome. It's great to hear new stuff. All right, Charos. Conditions. Charos says, really enjoyed working on this one. Any feedback is really appreciated. Apart from mixing, I also mastered the song. Not crazy stuff, compression, EQ, and limiting. All right, wondrous.
You don't know me. You don't know me like I do, but I've been drifting for about a year or two under these conditions. Weary souls and torn up shoes from all the distance, and I need to prove that I am different. You don't know me. You don't know me like I do, but I'm still tracing every line that leads back to all of these conditions. A slightly twisted point of view, and I am different, but still no different. And I can't find one more deserving of all the blame. I know myself well, and everything points that way. And though I'm clean now, I can never change that these conditions are mine alone to claim. I don't know you. I don't know you like you do, but I can see it. Every weathered bruise and all of your conditions. And I wonder if you know it too, that we are different, but still no different. And I can't find one more deserving of all the blame. I know myself well, and everything points that way. And though I'm clean now, I can never change that these conditions are mine alone. adds up to define me, adds up to define me. And I can't find one more deserving of all the blame. I know myself well, and everything points that way. And though I'm clean now, I can never change that these conditions are mine alone to claim.
Great work, Charles. I think the main thing for me would be is purely and simply just that kick and bass just clipping a little bit too much. And it's like I don't mind a sort of a hip hop approach with that.
A slightly twisted point of view, and I am different, but still no different. And I can't.
In general, like the electric guitar and the piano have a lot of compression on it, which kind of makes them feel like pop, 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 nice and spanky. But what's happening overall, whether it be kick, whether it be bass guitar, whether it be the electric, whether it be the piano, whether it be the bass, obviously, or the vocal, is there's a sort of a build-up of low end on everything. Like there's a little bit too much low end on the electric, for instance.
A slightly twisted point of view.
It's it just kind of like just starts to bloom a little tiny bit in the low. So a gentle increase on a slope on a high pass would be good. I mean, similarly on the vocal, at about 220, there's a build up on there. And that's very typical of David's voice. He doesn't have any low lows, but about 220 to 300, he's got a little bit of going on, just a touch. It could open up a little bit on his vocal, but I think...
A slightly twisted point of view, and I am different.
But I think with a slight gentle high pass, you know, from about 300 down, like a gentle high pass, I think it will solve a lot of those issues. But in general, there's a sort of a feeling like there's some lows being gathered somewhere. So I don't know if it's on the mix bus, whether there's a tape saturation or something on it. It feels like something globally has happened, like it's hitting like a tape emulation and there's like a build-up of low lows. Do you hear what I mean? It's an overall feeling of everything is a little compressed and a little low build-up. It's really close though. I don't want to be super, super negative. I just think if you keep something on that mix bus that's kind of tying it all together, then get a little bit clever on the high passing, maybe just a little bit more detail down there, and I think it'll really make it breathe. Bye, Dave Merkel. Thanks ever so much for all of your wonderful comments. Otherwise, fantastic mix, and you know, I do love the vocal sound. I feel like I think there's something globally that's affecting it, or it could be bussing up to that point. Sometimes it's not necessarily the master bus, but it's sort of things going on there. Right. So Charles, do you have anything on the master bus that's what's hitting on the master bus? Yeah, it might be that. It's whatever's going on the master bus. I think it's like kind of, you know, especially if it's like analog emulations and tape emulations. It's really interesting. I'm a little wary of sticking them on my master bus. I tend to find that I'm mixing and making a song sound like the way I want it to, and then I'm sort of like, what do I want to put on my master bus? The mix is the way I want it, you know, and it's like getting that to be a right kind of balance. Really, really great stuff. All right. Excellent. Peter Samuelson, Paralyze. I love this song. Great work, Charles. So really, really great work. And yeah, just sort of, I'm sure you can find those details. What did Peter write? Peter wrote a novel. Peter says, here's my mix of Paralyze. I try to get the drums as natural as possible. Make the acoustics drive the song. Level the vocals. I try to keep as low as possible because I want to responsive vocals come out a little. I also tried to do a breakdown of a mix a la Magnus Emerson, and I got ridiculously long, so please don't read it in the Feedback Friday. Okay. So you don't want me to read it in the Feedback Friday. Have a quick look. So SSL 4000E, the BX console, gating 9 dB assure for 8K, snare trap UAD distressor, full-time BX. So a lot of the BX SSL stuff going on, then some UAD things. Bass, SSL 4000E again, Sans amp, SSL 4000E, bass mic is running through 4000E, acoustics 4000E. So a lot that's being featured quite heavily, the BX console. Arturia comp, UAD Neve 1030. So I'm getting a feeling like a lot of the Brainworks and a lot of and UAD. Oh, I see a Mac DSP there, which reminds me I have to call Colin back in a minute. Okay, let's give it a listen.
In the bosom of the radio, and it's been in my ear, the sweetest of life, watching all the yesterdays glow. I can hear your voice like the loom of an organ's footwork pedaling. I cover my mouth with a curse and a cross to paralyze. Don't you trust me? I'm listening. Don't you trust me? Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved. Lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you've got a lot to learn. The feeling I get from closing my eyes is like throwing my hands in the air. Fill up my mouth with curses and lies. I don't think that my friends would care. I can feel my face going hot like a film strip melting. I yell away, I cover my eyes like a moth to the lights that paralyze. Yeah. Are you wondering of falling out? Are you wondering? And time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on the dime, away from what was preserved. Is a shallow reserve, but you've got a lot to learn. Changes time into a spine. but you got a lot. Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on the dime, away from what was preserved, lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you got a lot of nerve. You got a lot of nerve. Isn't you got a lot of nerve?
Really beautiful. I'm going to go back and listen to a section.
The feeling I get from closing my eyes is like throwing my hands in the air. But I can fill up my mouth the curses and lies. I don't think that my friends would care. I can feel my face going hot like a film strip melting. I yellow wings like cover my eyes like a moth to the lights that paralyze. Yeah. Are you wondering I'm falling out? Are you wondering?
It's really superb, really good mix. So there's the acoustics are fantastic. They're just a little too sizzly in 3 to 5. So what I would do is I'd put like a de-esser on them just to catch that extra kind of, don't change your chain, your bussing or whatever, just put like a little bit of de-essing on it just to catch a little bit of the spikiness of them. They're a little spiky, a little and then listen again, and then you might have to just add the tiniest amount of click to the kick. At the moment it's very round, but there's a lot of fight for 3 to 5K. In general, it's just like, I think it's mainly the acoustics. I don't want you to change the EQ settings, just put like a de-esser on there, because then they can just catch like where it's just biting a little bit too much. I mean, they're great definition, but they are really where my ear goes. On every set of headphones and on the speakers, I'm hearing like the sizzle there, which is nice, but I don't want that to be the actual feature. I'd like that to be the support and the air. So a little bit of de-essing, try to catch a couple of dB of just like the spikiness of that. Then a little bit of click on the kick, just maybe a little bit of tiny bit, and then a tiny bit more 60 on that kick, just a little bit. The bass in general is a really good tone. I just might want to hear a little bit more grit on it. Now, I think because the acoustics are the main thing living in that 3 to 5K area, that once those are tamed, some of these issues might not be as big to me. So the click on the kick might not, the clickiness of it might not be that big of a deal to me anymore, because my ear won't be hearing the sizzle. And also the attack on the bass might not be that big of a deal. So that's the way to sort of think about it. Solve one issue and see if it solves the others for you. Otherwise, an absolutely wonderful mix. It breathes, the vocals amazing. When the strings come in, they're fantastic. It's just a really good mix. What a great way to finish. So wonderful. I think today we've been talking, apart from YouTube messing with us, I think we've been talking about the low end quite a lot and getting into rooms, making sure our rooms can reproduce the low end. That means checking on multiple sources. As you can see here, we're using, because we're talking about open backs a lot today, so open back headphones, closed back, speakers, referencing in different situations, and getting to know your room. And then probably if you've got 6-inch speakers that aren't really cutting it, either try ones like the LP6s, which do have a little bit more low end, or get a sub. If your room, if it's a problem with the low end, then it might be worth investing in the sub. But remember, reference. Don't be afraid to use the car. Don't be afraid to use earbuds. Don't be afraid to try different headphones. Don't be afraid to go to different rooms, different stereo systems. Get it to a point where you can play music that you love that sounds great in all environments. And then you'll be like, okay, I need it to be like that. I need something that sounds like that, and work towards it. And of course, you have a wonderful community here to help you. So, yeah, Peter, I think if you tame those acoustics, everything else I'm talking about might come to life. It might just be because this is a really, really close mix, a really good mix. I think just a little bit of taming, and I think you'll be in a really, really great sense. Wonderful. Thanks ever so much, everybody. An amazing week. Sorry about the technical issues with the Tube of You. We have a video. It just went up. About open and closed back headphones. So please go and check that out. It's a new video. Go and leave me a comment and question over there. That would be absolutely amazing. If you haven't already, check out the Lewitt tour. It was so gracious of them to take us around. Really wonderful people. Have a marvellous time recording and mixing. We'll see you all again very, very soon. And yeah, very excited. I'm going to Abbey Road in 2 weeks. Tell you about that soon. What? What? Who? Where?